To get started with a few announcements. First, we didn't have time this morning, but I do actually owe a drawing for a $25 Amazon gift card for anyone that was using the app as of the start of the conference. My colleague actually put together these names. There are 130 names in here on very little tiny pieces of paper that's like 2-point font, so I will select a winner. And it is Gail Karish. Congratulations. So Gail, I will email you the $25 gift card at some point over the next 24 hours. And I also want to thank today's luncheon sponsors, Charter, Comcast, and NCTA. They put together a fabulous panel that will be starting at about 1:20 this afternoon. And I want to encourage all of you, in your blue bags that you received at registration, you have a passport. And as you know from years past, you can complete the passport for a chance to win some great prizes. We have a lot of $100 gift cards. We have some really cool things like Bose smart sunglasses, red bass guitar, so all kinds of interesting things this year. But please turn that in to us by the time the lunch starts on Thursday. We'll be drawing at the end of Thursday's lunch. So you just visit the exhibitors, have them sign their passport. Once it's complete, drop it off at the registration desk. And you must be present to win. And the grand prize is a registration to NATOA's 2020 conference in Denver. So join us tonight at 4 p.m. for happy hour in the exhibit hall sponsored by Comrex. You have drink tickets in the back of your badge, so you'll want to bring those along with you. And again, just about the app, it is really a great way to stay informed. Not only can you personalize your schedule, but we'll be loading presentations there as well after the conference. So if you haven't already, please download it and use it. It's really a great tool. All right, well, with that, I'm going to ask our incoming president, Brian Roberts, to come up and present our 2019 Member of the Year.
Thank you, Tanya, and I'm glad that they put the rails up on the stairs this year. It's going to be great. So NATOA's 2019 Member of the Year is being awarded to a long-standing member of NATOA, a staunch leader in community media, and a diehard advocate for the support, promotion, and protection of local PEG stations across the country. He values the importance of a local voice in the media landscape, not just for entertainment, but for education of community members, so that they can be informed to make good decisions. He served on the Alliance for Community Media Board of Directors from 2004 to 2010, was a national chair, served as ACM treasurer, ACM development chair, and in 2012 was awarded with the Busky National Leadership Award. He is a great friend and partner of NATOA and our affiliate national organizations, and I'm delighted to have the privilege of adding another award to his long list. And if I haven't already made it completely obvious who our 2019 Member of the Year is, I'll finish with a quote from him that captures his passion for community media. In 2019, when we're seeing journalism being threatened, we're seeing jobs disappearing, the one thing we can't end up doing is shredding those institutions, getting rid of those institutions, and eliminating the possibility for local people to actually see themselves in the media. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in congratulating ACM President and CEO Mike Wassenaar as NATOA's 2019 Member of the Year. Mike's going to, by popular demand, Mike's going to come up and say a few words. But I would like to remind him that our program starts at 1:20. So,
So we'll only have like 10 minutes of Q&A. All right. Wow. Brian, thank you. My thanks to the NATOA leadership, to the NATOA staff, and to all of our colleagues across the country who work diligently to make sure that we can protect local expression through the channels that we operate and that we're stewards for in the United States. It means a great deal. I think the thing that I would just tell you is that sometimes, in times when we're uncertain of things, in times when we are trying to protect resources that we manage, we can be set against each other. And it's extremely important that we not be. Right? So don't think about the people that you collaborate at the local level. Think about your partners at the local level. The one thing that I want to make sure of is that we don't eat our own. The mahi-mahi is very good, but we don't eat our own. All right? So thank you very much. In the spirit of it's given, thank you so much.
Moderator, Nilda Gums, to present the rest of the panel for today's luncheon discussion.
Hello. Are all of our panelists, your mics are on?
I think
Good
so.
to go?
Yeah.
Well, welcome everybody. Thank you so much for taking time to join us today. I have a great panel lined up for you guys. I am Nilda Gums, today. Internet and television are the trade association based in Washington, represent cable operators across the country, both large and not so large, both on the Hill and at federal regulatory agencies. I've been coming to the NATOA meeting for about 15 years. So it's nice that we still continue to grow. Our subject matter is evolving, and you guys are talking about way more cutting-edge technology that affect how you do your business every day. So we appreciate, as people in this review, allowing partners and to be here and have a very fruitful conversation about smart and connected communities. That's what we really want to focus on. I know that you've spent a large part of yesterday talking about that.
Sorry, excuse me. Your mic is failing.
Oh, my mic is failing. That has never been said to me before. Okay, so should I turn off the... Man, I was on such a roll with that. So it's nice to have us here, Cable here, as partners, to have this conversation about innovation and what's next as we look at our communities, we look at the work that we're doing on the cable side. You should have on your table some brochures about 10G. We seem to gloss over the fact that cable operators are providing 1 gig service to 80% of the homes in this country, but cable is always evolving, and we're already on to the next platform, the next iteration of technology advancement, and that's with 10G. And without 10G, without 1G, a lot of what we've been talking about yesterday and today and continuing in our conversations wouldn't be possible without that technology. So what I've done is I've invited Charter, Comcast, Bill from US Ignite, the other Bill, I'm calling us the Big Mac. So we've got the Bills on the end and the 2 patties in the middle, and I am the special sauce. Okay? So it literally is Bill, Patty, Patty, Bill, okay? Just, I'm not even making that up. So with that, I have asked each one of our panelists to, you know, because it's always weird when you read bios, because it doesn't even sound like you, and it sounds really fabricated. So I've asked everyone to come up with their own 90-second version of who they are, what they do, and why are they here. So we can start with the Patties, ladies first, and then we can go to the 2 Bills.
Oh, wow, I sat over here because I didn't want to be first. My name is Patty Zullo. I'm Senior Director of Smart Cities for Spectrum Enterprise. And I've been in Smart Cities for about 10 years. I've worked for and helped set strategy for IBM, AT&T, and GE. I'm now here at Spectrum doing the same thing, working with our clients in our footprint to help educate them on smart cities and help them get started. My moniker that both my clients as well as my internal team call me is the Smart Cities Sherpa. I wear that moniker very proudly. I really do like to work with our cities, not to try to sell them, but to try to educate them and understand how they can start to be smart.
Hello, everyone. I'm Patty Loyak. I'm Vice President of Xfinity Services at Comcast. I'm responsible for launching our next generation service offerings to our residential customers in our broadband as well as our MDU businesses. So I'm excited to be here and share all the great things that we're doing in this space, because we're doing a lot.
Yeah, I'm Bill Wallace, US Ignite. We're a nonprofit focused on accelerating the smart city movement nationwide. And we strongly believe that the foundation of a smart city is a very strong network, an advanced network, that if used correctly and leveraged can drive economic development, jobs, startups, and investments in innovation areas. So we're really focused on fostering that innovation through many different mechanisms, which we'll talk about during the course of the next 20 minutes.
And I'm Bill McGuire, founder of Connected Communities Consulting. Since 2013, Connected Communities Consulting has been a partner to local governments, to nonprofits, and to technology companies, working to advance smart and connected community initiatives, particularly at scale, how we sort of bring these transformations to scale. I've had the pleasure of getting to know a number of folks in this room through my time working at NTIA and in the BTOP program, and I know very well and appreciate very well the energy and commitment that you all bring to these conversations, so I'm thrilled to be a part of the discussion.
So before we start, just a show of hands, how many folks in here would consider their city smart, connect? Just a show of hands. So in other words, this conversation will be very helpful for you, and we're not talking to a room full of people who know everything already, right? So let's first of all, I will do Q&A with them, but then we're going to open up the room for questions. So just go to the mic when we get to that portion of the program, and just love for you to state your name, where you're from, and then ask your question when we get to that portion. But so let's just sort of dive in here. Any one of you can take this question. Probably maybe a little more for you, Bill, to start. But just what do you think makes a city smart and connected, or what elements do you think a city should be really looking at to be there?
So one of the things that I enjoy most about this consulting work that I do is running a series of workshops I call Smart City 101, SC 101, kind of smart cities for dummies. And more than 200 local government leaders have gone through this workshop, and I think those of us who are workshopping this idea believe that there's a pretty standard kind of stack we can associate with a smart connected community. You've got the connectivity layer, you've got the devices, you've got some data and analytics, and then you have applications on top. Oftentimes, the discussion about smart and connected can focus on the connectivity layer and the devices. Personally, I think folks in this room are likely to agree that the exciting transformation really occurs more at the application level. So when I think about a smart and connected community, usually I'm going to go first to the application level and see what kind of impact the initiatives are having on residents. And then I'm interested in sort of drilling down on what other pieces are making that possible. So I would suggest that we consider maybe the applications as kind of critical to evaluating whether a city or community is smart and connected. But I'm certainly interested in other panelists.
Right. Patty, so why do you think cities are actually pursuing and really talking to Spectrum and trying to work with your company?
So I think one of the biggest reasons that I'm hearing from my clients out there is they want to be competitive. There's so much competition right now between people moving and working and tourism, and they want those dollars. And smart city applications really do help attract economic development. They really do attract people saying, well, if I'm going to want to move somewhere, do I want to move to a city that really provides me a lot of the higher technology that's available today, or am I going to move to a city that maybe is a little bit less behind the smart city space, and I may not have Wi-Fi or broadband or 1 gig or any of the smart parking or any of those capabilities. So really the drivers that I'm finding almost exclusively is economic development.
Yeah, exactly.
Same for you,
We're finding the same thing, and I would just add one element to what Bill suggested. A smart city is one that is willing to take the infrastructure stack along with data and the applications and tackle major problems. And they're trying to solve the problems by enabling citizens and government departments to see the same data at the same time. And that's nirvana. No one's there yet. In fact, most of the cities we work with are in pilot stages and elements of this whole movement. So we're a long way to go before nirvana. But ultimately, you want open data that's securely safe, but also is visible to city departments across those departments and to citizens who benefit from those services. And that's kind of where we're heading, so that problems are solved and diagnostic issues are identified and dealt with real time.
Yeah, the mixture of data from silos, when I go and talk to cities, they really, everybody tells me they have plenty of data. They don't need any more data. What they need to be able to do is be able to look at the data and make some aha moments. So we were working with the city actually in southern Florida, and what they wanted to do is revitalize a park. And so what they took a look at was they dumped all the data from all the different departments into the single pane of glass, and they were running some KPIs, key performance indicators, against it. And what they found was that this particular park had kind of gotten run down, and so an element was seeping into the park that was preventing the citizens from using it. And when they took some analysis another level, they found that the police were being called from 1 and 3 in the morning to make public safety arrests, and that the Parks Department was watering between 9 and 10 in the morning. They shifted the watering between 1 and 3 in the morning, and crime went down 80%. That's an aha moment. That helped because data. The police department and the Parks Department talk to each other every day, I bet, and they don't talk on that level. So
Sounds like marriage. Okay, go ahead.
So really getting the data down to that level is what smart cities can do, and every city is different. So it's important, whatever your initiatives are, the data is available probably today or being collected through all of these additional sensors, and being able to use those in applications and use those in analysis to be able to really compare it against what you and your city leaders are trying to achieve is where you become smart.
So to collect the data, Patty Loyak, you have to have a really robust broadband network. Can you tell us a little bit how the Comcast Xfinity network plays into smart cities?
Sure, I think it really, as you think about the connected life and our connected cities, it is the heartbeat of that. And it really is, continuing to invest in our network, but then also make it easy for people that are strolling around the streets to get access to Wi-Fi and to simply be connected. And so as we think about that in the future, it is that ubiquitous coverage that, we ultimately need to have, not only in our homes, but outside of our homes.
Mm-hmm. And did you know the stat that they expect 55 billion devices to be connected to Wi-Fi by 2020? It's a lot of devices, right? If you think about how many you have in your home right now, today, just between you and your family, that's a lot. So, Bill Wallace, my other Bill down here, can you tell us a little bit about, like, US Ignite? You're going across the country, you're creating sort of these public-private partnerships with cities and cable operators because they have the infrastructure, right, to be able to deliver smart cities. But what are you finding are some of the more innovative things that are happening as a result of some of these partnerships?
Sure. Across cities, there are dozens and dozens, but we're actually working with Charter and Spectrum over in St. Petersburg, Florida, and there's some very interesting projects going on there. Interestingly, in Florida, the streets are so efficient that traffic fatalities and pedestrian fatalities are very high relative to other parts of the country. So we're doing a smart city pilot for traffic lights in St. Pete that hopefully will lead to an expansion across the whole city to reduce traffic fatalities and pedestrian and bike fatalities. We're also doing an interesting project which is aimed at immersive learning, which is a marine science college campus in St. Petersburg. They're connecting fiber from that campus to Boys and Girls Clubs in St. Petersburg. And immersive learning means students can learn better, hopefully. The students in this class are adopting a reef under the bay and learning how to count the fish in different quadrants, learn some statistics through a professor's program called Fish-all recognition. So it's kind of interesting. A few other exciting things are going on in immersive learning. There's a 4K microscope that's being used across 3,000 miles of the country to bring students into the classroom of a world-class professor and being able to maneuver the microscope from 3,000 miles away. But on and on and on. Predictive policing is happening in many cities where police are putting together data to predict what crime's going to happen, like the one Patty described. The one other one, a lot in health and remote distance medicine and remote tele-rehabilitation, so that senior citizens may not need to leave their rooms to be able to take part in rehabilitation with a doctor monitoring their gait and their movement and their exercise, that kind of thing.
So, Bill McGuire, so a close observer of smart, connected communities, what do you think this is a fad? Is this something we're going to really be spending a lot of time on going forward? Is this the wave of the future? Is it not going to be around, or?
Well, I mean, I think we have to admit there's a whole lot of buzz. We could all go to smart city conferences, every week. And there's a lot of growing enthusiasm and interest in the space. I guess my best sort of answer to that question is to point to the Advancing Cities initiative that J.P. Morgan announced last year. They received 150 applications for that initiative from 143 communities in more than 40 states. They received 1,800 inquiries from it. So that suggests to me that there's real interest among the communities. But it's also notable that J.P. Morgan is having a Smart Cities initiative. And I see that alongside real estate developers that are seeing these smart and connected technologies as critical differentiators. I see utilities and cable companies being much more active in conversations that initially, so it seemed to me, were really more about IT and technology. So I think the fact that this topic has become so all-encompassing means that it does have this buzz that we have to acknowledge, and has some marketing speak around it. But I think the elected officials think it's real. That's why a lot of us are involved, and certainly there's a growing community in different sectors that are joining this conversation. So I think that's real as well. I think we're going to be talking about this subject for a while, would be my assessment.
Patty Loyak, what's Comcast doing in the Internet of Things space that's going to keep this thing going and really drive Comcast business going forward?
So, I mean, we're doing things on multiple fronts, and I'll start with the home, because that's where we predominantly spend most of our time as individuals, believe it or not, and really making sure that connectivity is secure and reliable. So as people are bringing more and more of these devices that don't have a keyboard or a faceless, they have that peace of mind that we're protecting them when it's connected to Wi-Fi. I think that's so important. I think the other piece of it is making that experience simple for them to embrace this technology, because we're not at a point where it's, mass adoption as you think about IoT. And so for us, we want to meet where the customers are and bring them along this journey. And so that's what we're focused on. But it's not just people who live in single-family homes. It's also partnering with builders. We announced our Xfinity Communities project in Chicago, where we're working with Kest Management to light up their buildings with smart lighting, thermostats. So I think for us, it's really pushing the envelope on multiple ends, as well as even our, starting companies like Machine Q, right, to give businesses and communities a solution to really build, test, and deploy IoT projects for them in a affordable way.
So you mentioned Machine Q. Is anyone familiar with Machine Q out there? Okay, could you just tell us briefly, because I know what it is, and I find it pretty fascinating because I am really afraid of rodents. I will be the first to say. Anything that moves quickly, I'm afraid of. But Machine Q can tell you where they are based on the data that they capture, right? So this is how cities, that's an example of how cities are addressing rodent problems, if there's trash pickup. But Machine Q, go ahead, I'm sorry.
Sure, it's a startup that we have that enables enterprise IoT platform. It's both hardware and software. So you think about sensors that Patty was talking about and gateways. It leverages LoRa, right, which is a low power technology that goes farther from a distance perspective, as well as penetrates obstacles and can go underground. And so obviously, we're partnering and leveraging them to help cities and businesses start somewhere.
So anybody can answer this, but what do you think keeps cities from becoming smart? What do you think holds cities back, or why some are a little?
I'll take a crack at it. It's hard work, and it requires leadership that's willing to take a leap of faith. Because most of these projects don't offer an immediate payback. Smart lighting tends to, because you can put in LED lights and get an ROI and then add other things onto it. But a lot of them take a while to pay back. A lot of them take a while for the citizens to see the benefit. So you need a leadership group, a mayor or city manager and a city council that says, okay, this is something other cities have tried. It seems to be working. It seems to be creating jobs. It's creating startups. It's creating investment. Let's budget for it. Let's make it happen. But then it's a matter of setting up a broad-based steering group or acceleration group to monitor it and make it happen and focus. Don't try to boil the ocean. Don't try to do everything. Pick 2 or 3 projects that you know you can be good at, and then get citizens involved. Do hackathons or reverse pitches and things to make innovation visible around the area you focused on. And there's Brookings calls it the new geography of innovation, and it's very much around innovation districts where you make innovation very visible. You bring small companies in, you bring big companies in, you bring civic organizations, you bring professors, you bring hackers, developers, and you get them focused on city problems. So in St. Pete, where we're doing smart street lights, we're putting sensors on the pilot street lights. We're going to be involving students from the University of South Florida to work and imagine what could be done with the sensor, what data can be tracked above and beyond our initial plans. So none of this is easy, and none of this is going to happen overnight. But smart street lighting is a pretty good place to start if you want an ROI.
Right.
Yeah, so another thing we're finding when we talk to our client cities is that there's so much noise out there. I've been involved in smart cities for over 10 years, and some of the vendors are still here. Some of them have gone by the wayside, and new ones have shown up. And a lot of our cities are looking for a trusted advisor, somebody to help them figure out where to start. And like Bill said, you know, I go to a city and the city will say, give it to me all, and I will break you if I do that. So we don't want to do that. We want to pick 1 or 2 key initiatives and see what sensor technology or what analytics or what devices we can provide to you to allow you to realize the benefit. And as Bill said, the cities that have been the most successful are the ones that take a look and either bring in an innovation officer or a team that focuses 100% on smart cities, so you don't have your city manager doing his day job and then at night he worries about smart cities. That just doesn't work. Or somebody who actually can enlist help from the private sector, like St. Pete has done and other cities have successfully done, to bring in this nonprofit innovation district to be able to work closely not only with the city, but also closely with the private sector partners to help fund some of this. I know people don't like to talk about revenue, but that certainly is a challenge for a lot of our cities, and I can't afford it. How am I going to do it? There are ways to be able to fund this, to be able to have a 0 budget item for the city, and yet still allow you to invest in this technology. However, the caveat is, for Spectrum certainly will invest in our cities as long as you have dedicated resources to work with us during the pilot, and the pilot is like a year long. So it's not just we're going to put it up, walk away, and you're good. That's not what Smart Cities is. It's a journey. We're there to help you. We're there to help learn and understand what you want, but you really, from a city's perspective, you do really need to have dedicated resources to drive this.
So there is a real commitment on, this is a plug, shameless plug. There is a real commitment on behalf of operators to actually be invested in a smart city, really being smart, right? And to have projects that are sustainable over time. So speaking of noise, do you need 5G to become a smart city?
So I'll start with that. I get that asked a lot. So 5G is only going to make whatever's working today work better. So everybody's got a TV. You remember when HD came out, your normal TV channels looked way better in HD. I now have a 4K TV. I spent extra for it. I've got 4 channels that work in 4K. They look nicer, but they still work just as good as HD. But you can't drive your smart city strategy on one protocol. You know, 5G is going to be great for some applications, but like LoRa, for water metering or gas metering or flood metering, 5G is not going to help you really there. So you have to have a diverse network, and so 5G is going to be great. A lot of your cities will start seeing pilots soon because some of the operators are making noises about deploying early 5G in your city. But until the device manufacturers and the sensors really gain that trust of 5G and actually start deploying 5G as the protocol of choice, 5G is not going to have that much effect in your city. You can start with whatever you're doing today, using whatever protocols you're doing today, and they will grow and get better with 5G.
Anybody else want to chime in on that?
Well, I was very pleased to have the Baltimore Sun accept an op-ed that I wrote last week suggesting that I really hope we're not waiting for 5G. That really I see 5G as a platform for very exciting applications. Again, I think about this topic in terms of what kind of impact it can have on the residents of the communities that are being served by these projects. So I see it as a platform on which we're going to build. So when I start doing the math on this, we need the platform, we need the devices, and we need to build up the applications that are going to, benefit from the low latency. It seems to me that we're talking many years. And then when we expand beyond just the NFL cities, I add additional years for those deployments. So in the op-ed, I make the case that there is a platform in the home right now that local governments can use to leverage healthcare and education applications that can be delivered directly to residents in a way that's pretty innovative, but it doesn't necessarily have advertisements on NFL Sundays about. So I'm hoping we're not going to wait, because I think we've got too long to wait for 5G to become everywhere and deliver the promise that we've all heard about.
So, but we do think that the technology we have today, the infrastructure that exists with cable companies today can certainly, be a conduit for getting cities smart. So tell me, what do you think are some of the, what's the minimum a city would have to be considered smart in your experience? Anybody?
So for me, I would say that you have to have the drive to want to be there. That's number one, because if it's pushing uphill, it's not going to happen. It's got to come from the top. But from a technology perspective, just about every city out there right now has fiber in its backbone somewhere. So they're at least a 1 gig city. And they have to be able to understand, pick one or two small neighborhoods that they could deploy a sensor. So every city can be smart. Every city has the technology probably today to be smart. You just have to have the desire to want to get there, the approval from your leadership to actually drive some of these initiatives, and then don't do it alone. Pick a partner. It could be any one of us. It could be it could be a third party. It could be a consultant. It could be anybody. But don't do it alone, because there's so many avenues for you to take. Bring people in to be able to say, of these 3 sensor technologies that all do cameras, they all seem to do cameras really well. Do I buy all 3? Do I deploy one or over the other? What would you suggest? And so that's really where somebody like the folks sitting here on the stage or other consultants can really help guide you. We don't make any money off of the sensor devices, so we're not trying to do that. We really want the cities to be smart and really embrace the technologies. Deploying in a neighborhood doesn't make any of us smart. Deploying in the city-wide application makes the city smart. And so that's really what our goal is, to be able to do that.
Bill Wallace, how hard is it to work with US Ignite and work on a project, get a grant? What's the process for folks who are new to this?
Sure. In our case, we set up this broad-based steering group that I mentioned. I'd like to elaborate on one point Patty made. It's amazing the impact one individual can make in this whole process of waking up every morning saying, okay, what are we going to do to advance the smart city efforts of this city? And then also the other thing I'd say about that person is confidence of the mayor or city manager and a million connections across a broad-based set of stakeholders. And the cities that have been most successful in moving this along have that person, and it's usually one person. It makes a big difference. So what we do is we go into a city, we set up a steering group, we get the mayor or the city manager behind our efforts, sometimes a sponsor like Charter or Comcast or Cox or a university sponsors what we do, and then we zero in on a challenge the city wants to tackle with its foundational infrastructure, fiber. And by the way, one point to make about 5G, the deeper your fiber is, the better your 5G is going to be, as Patty said. And you can never go wrong having more fiber that gets you closer to the wireless sensor points. But so set up a steering group, create a mini playbook, not a real elaborate one that focuses on 2 or 3 areas you want to focus in on, and then set off a whirlwind of innovation. The cities that are most innovative are the ones that make innovation visible, as I said a minute ago, and run reverse pitches are one of our most successful kinds of mechanisms, where you define a challenge and you have the city or the university define the challenge to a group of developers, and you run a successive set of competitions with small prize money. It's amazing the kind of solutions you can come up with a small group of developers who are from the local area. Sometimes electric companies, for example, have smart grid challenges that they can't figure out internally, and they go to local developers who can come up with creative things. And then from there, once you have an idea, you have a series of great ideas about solving a challenge in the city, then scaling it up sometimes comes from the city, but sometimes from federal grants. We've gotten a number of National Science Foundation grants and some Department of Defense grants, some state grants, and there's a lot of there's money out there for the city that can define its challenge and make progress. You know, start small, get going, get started. By the way, I should say that one of the biggest smart city projects in the world is happening next door here. It's waterside, 52 acres, 9 million square feet of commercial space, residential space, entertainment, cultural, and $3 billion of investment. And they're doing it right. They're starting with a fiber infrastructure that is future-proof as much as it can be. No one can really predict what's all the applications are going to be down the road, but you want to have a robust enough infrastructure so you can be flexible as they come about.
So Tampa's this was very timely, Tanya, to be here.
Run that tomorrow.
Perfecto, look at
Bill
us.
Gates is behind it, and the Zinnick family, so you got your good hands.
Firing on all cylinders here. So before I open it up to the audience, where do you see this whole discussion, where do you see the country in terms of smart cities in the next 5 to 10 years, any one of you, or your companies for that matter? Anybody?
So I think from our perspective, I think it's exciting to think about the endless possibilities, right, of a smart city. But I think to everyone up here's point, it's about really making sure you're anchored around the outcomes and not necessarily the applications. Mm-hmm. So I think for that is what you as a smart city want your outcome to be. I think it's so important. And then I also believe that there are technologies that aren't even available right now that we're going to be able to leverage down the road that could help with better outcomes, in each of these cities. But I think we have to start now. And to Bill's point, we're going to start small. But I think with that small comes growth, and then the proliferation will happen, and more cities will be popping up smarter than ever.
Yeah, mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. I grew up with the cartoon, The Jetsons, and to me, that's the ultimate smart city. I don't think we're going to be, okay, so I aged myself.
I always wanted a conveyor belt to get ready. Yeah.
So, I don't think in 10 years we're going to be there, but as just to reiterate what Patty said, the technology that is really evolving, the technology that's coming out now is so much more mature than it was when the technology came out in the beginning of the smart city evolution 10, 15, 20 years ago. And now that technology is based on outcomes. It's not just based on a shiny object. 10 years ago, people thought cities thought they were smart if they had LED lights. Yep, got it, checkbox. Now, everybody's got LED lights. What else have you done? So really helping their citizens understand how they can better use government resources, how maybe they can do everything online. They don't necessarily have to wait in line. How they can actually put data to use. To me, data is the final frontier, is that next frontier that we want to be able to harness, because if we can visualize, give the cities back the data that they're collecting today, then that allows them to be able to have limitless possibilities.
Yeah, I would just add maybe one element to that, and that is this whole idea. You know how I'm always amazed when your cell phone updates over the air at night, and the companies providing that know what you need in your cell phone to keep it secure, whatever. Increasingly, that's going to happen with smart cities, where the city's going to know that your trash can is needing emptying, even if it's not your day, and they're going to optimize. Just use a very small example, but more and more cities will know in advance of a citizen needing to say, I need my trash picked up, it'll be picked up. And just imagine having over-the-air type services enhanced in that way over the next 10 years, diagnostic and delivery.
Right. Bill?
Well, I think that we've seen mobility and public safety get a lot of emphasis in sort of the first 10 years of smart and connected community dialogue. And I really think health and education might be a space where we see a lot of growth in the next 10 years. And I'll make my pitch on that to the local government leaders in the room. 117 million Americans have one or more chronic disease that they're managing. Kaiser Permanente, healthcare provider in California, in 2017 did 52% of their 100 million encounters virtually. I'm not aware of states or localities that have got the kind of Medicaid innovation programs in place where the states that are spending average of 30% of their state budget on Medicaid to support at-home health care services. They're not following industry yet, yet they're huge payers. So I guess I'm trying to make the point that local governments, it's a key service, education and health, and I think it's not received the prominence that it will in the next 10 years. And I think that should rightly be considered a smart and connected community application.
So I'd like to open the floor, the mics. I knew Mitzi was coming. I knew it. Thank you, Mitzi, whom I've known for a very long time. So.
So know that we have been colleagues for a very long time, and I wouldn't be me
Here it comes, everyone. Okay, go ahead.
if I didn't say that I just hope that Comcast, your members, other providers who are not your members, who should be, that you follow the Spider-Man rule of with great power comes great responsibility. Mm-hmm. And we hope that you will not be trying to improve profits and cutting back on smart city initiatives on the backs of broadband to children in schools and community media by following through on some of the things that the FCC is looking at in that in-kind order and coming back into communities where we've already built out fiber and wanting to charge fees that then forces people to say, well, maybe we should go out and get bonds and be rebuilding where we're already doing it instead of putting the investment into some of these smart city and county initiatives. I think that everybody in here, despite what is happening at the FCC from the local government, we want to partner with business and we want to have these initiatives in our community. And the irony is that while the FCC is trying to undercut our ability to charge anything in the right-of-way, almost all the smart city applications that I see are all things that local governments would be paying for, whether that's smart street lighting, pedestrian safety, trash collection. So my question for you, I love the idea of starting something small, not trying to do the whole thing. I think that's a really good way to get people excited about something that's concrete. Are there things that you can point to, some examples of places where a smart community initiative has really brought an economic development? It's not a different way for the local government to spend its money or spend it more effectively, but here's a concrete thing that actually drew more dollars into the community. Because more and more what I look at as a person who works in technology with elected officials is they want to see that this investment is actually generating something more than just a different way for local governments to spend the money. Mm-hmm. So do you have any of those, or if you can help us get some of those? And Bill Wallace, how easy is it to leverage if other people are doing research in these smart lighting and different sensors and things that you can do? How easy is it for other people to share in, great, I've got some of those sensors, I don't have to reinvent the wheel, let me try to put that to use here?
Yeah, let me just chime in first, and Patty, you can take it away.
We
Yeah,
brought the
no.
right people for you, Mitzi, not to worry.
There's a lot of sharing going on, a lot of best practices. We talked to people from Portland, we talked to people from San Diego who were kind of pioneers in the smart street lighting world, and we learned a lot of lessons from them before we did anything with Spectrum in St. Pete. So a lot of sharing going, not a lot of.
And I sold both of those,
Yeah,
Portland
I know you
and
did.
San Diego, so.
I know you did. And then, I mentioned earlier that leaders need to take a leap of faith that this is going to work. And the way we do that often is by pointing to other cities where that has happened. And, you can't say this one product, an ROI from a LED lighting, you can usually find a payback. That's one. The other ones are generally going to take 4 or 5 or 6 years, and it's leveraging the infrastructure in many innovative ways. But I can point to cities, and I can send it to you offline, where there are 4,000 or 5,000 jobs created, 120 startups, and $700 million of investment in an innovation district. Other cities can point to 1,500. It's tough to track jobs and point it to exactly which project caused it. But this is pretty well documented by economists. Patty?
And then on the digital literacy side, I mean, we continue, right, to connect. We've connected over 8 million Americans, low-income Americans. We've expanded our programs to include, elder and military. So we are very serious about bridging that digital divide, and we're doing that right now with Internet Essentials, but we're going to continue to expand upon that program to ensure that everyone can embrace this technology going forward, because we know there are gaps right now. And so we're invested in closing those gaps.
And that's the good news for those of you who don't know. If you're in Cox territory, Midco, any of these other cable operators, they all have their version of low-cost broadband programs to connect families and communities who are either low-income, free school, reduced lunch, seniors. So it's not just Comcast, it's not just Spectrum. Cox does it, Midco does it. We have a lot of cable operators that are under our membership that have made this commitment voluntarily. So I would encourage you as the city folks, if you don't know who those people are and where those programs exist, you need to reach out to the folks that you're communicating with on your franchise side and get as much information as you can. I think all of our companies are dedicated and committed to coming in. They go to PTA meetings, they go to every city council meeting. They'll go there and they will spread the word. A lot of the issue around connectivity for low income and free lunch families is whether their information is being used for other purposes, right? So, are they in the system in a certain way? Or is someone going to know how many people they have in their home that they weren't willing to report on their welfare application or some other thing? So that is a large hurdle that I think operators have been trying to, that's why they've been out there educating so much, so.
I do want to publicly just thank Comcast for the Internet Essentials and what you have sort of led, and the fact that you have, over the years, continually expanded that program. I do hope that in urban areas, you would want to try to commit with us that 100% of kids attending public school will have internet access at home within the next 3 years, and that you please expand your programs where you're for elderly. They still lag farthest behind. What you're doing so far has been great, and we hope that you'll expand that in other communities.
Great. Other questions from the floor? Did we lose everybody? Everybody's gone out. They're a smart city now? Sure? Oh, wait, we may have one.
I've got a question that's shorter than Mitzi's. Lori Sherwood with Vantage Point Solutions. My question is really, well, it's actually a two-part question, but it's short. The first is, where do you suggest that communities go to look for ideas about smart cities? I think a lot of times when we talk to cities, there's an education gap. They don't know where they should start and and it's overwhelming, and so they don't start. And then the second point is, what advice do you have to rural communities who are not only trying to improve their infrastructure to catch up with the cities, but also are concerned with also being a smart community?
Any one of you?
Yeah, I'll send you a presentation with 36 smart city trends if you give me a card. There's a good menu to say, here's some things you could do as a city in 7 different sectors, and it's just a checklist, but it seems to help. Rural, boy, that's a tough one. Wearing our other hat, we sponsor wireless research, and we're spending $16 million to try to break the cost curve challenge, that wireless challenge that rural cities and towns face. And short of that, it's going to be tough. Bill's program, the BTOP program, made some headway in getting middle mile fiber out to rural areas, but we got a long way to go. There's no magic bullet, and we need to have a way to build robust competitiveness in our rural areas so people can stay there if they want to stay there. And again, we hope some technology. This technology platform is called Platform for Advanced Wireless Research, the $100 million program by NSF that we're program managing. But the last RFP just came out last week, and it's truly aimed at breaking that technical cost curve, maybe using low orbit satellite or whatever. But until we have that, it's just a challenge. I don't have a quick answer.
Anybody else want to chime in? So I would say for cities for rural areas, I mean, the good news is we're having many more conversations about the availability of services to rural areas. There are multiple technologies that cities in rural areas need to really think about, right? There's still wireless, satellite. I mean, it can't just be the large cable provider is going to go that last mile necessarily, particularly when you're talking about rural areas where there's maybe 20 miles between ranches or houses or such, or maybe it's even 5 miles in between. But there is a business case to be made for some rural telco providers who are been given grant monies to provide service in rural areas, and maybe they're not, and they're overbuilding in areas that are already served. So I think it's part of it is you have to go to your state sort of broadband outfits and hold them accountable for where there are supposed to be providers in rural areas, and then really continue to talk to cable operators about their ability to expand in those areas. What are they doing? Is there a plan? Is there a reason why they can't? But then also, what other providers are in the area to really be able to deliver that are supposed to deliver? So I'm getting the hook now, which
This is not the hook. I just wanted to thank you guys so much for being here today, and to NCTA, Comcast, and Charter for sponsoring our luncheon. It is great to have your support, to have your willingness to come and have these conversations, and we really appreciate it. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye.